Russia has fired a barrage of hundreds of projectiles overnight, including cruise and ballistic missiles, in its largest aerial attack against Ukraine to date.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his latest meeting with Donald Trump focused on freeing Israeli hostages and the possibility of a ceasefire.
French authorities raided the headquarters of the far-right National Rally Party, probing alleged violations of campaign finance laws.
A fast-moving wildfire near Marseille has left more than 100 people injured and at least 400 people have been evacuated.
Russia has fired a massive barrage of drones and missiles against Ukraine overnight, the largest offensive since it launched its full-scale invasion. Ukraine says the Kremlin fired more than 700 projectiles targeting mainly the western city of Lutsk. The barrage featured Shahed-type drones as well as cruise and air ballistic missiles. Ukrainian air forces say they've shot down almost 300 drones and were able to intercept over 400 others using electronic jammers. All 7 cruise missiles were also intercepted by Ukraine's air defenses. Ballistic missiles, however, did manage to strike their targets. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Moscow's attacks highlight their unwillingness to end the war. He has called on allies to ramp up pressure on Russia to force them into peace.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his latest meeting with US President Donald Trump focused on efforts to free Israeli hostages.
קיימתי היום פגישה נוספת עם הנשיא טראמפ בבית הלבן, ואחר כך פגישה קצרה עם סגן הנשיא ואנס. אנחנו התמקדנו במאמצים לשחרור חטופינו. אנחנו לא מרפים מזה לרגע, וזה מתאפשר בגלל הלחץ הצבאי שמפעילים חיילינו הגיבורים.
Trump has ramped up the pressure on Netanyahu to move towards a US-backed ceasefire deal in the Gaza Strip, where he described the conditions as hell. The plan includes a 60-day pause in fighting, more aid, and the release of hostages. Israel and Hamas are holding indirect talks, but both sides remain far apart on the terms of lasting peace. So far, a breakthrough remains out of reach.
French authorities raided the headquarters of the far-right National Rally Party on Wednesday as part of a probe into alleged violations of campaign finance laws. The Paris prosecutor's office said the investigation is examining whether the party used illegal loans to finance its campaigns between 2020 and 2024. The investigation concerns possible acts of money laundering and the use of forged documents during their 2022 presidential and 2024 European election races. The National Rally's president Jordan Bardella called the action a new harassment campaign. He said armed forces stormed the party building on Wednesday morning and seized emails, documents, and accounting data. The party has surged in popularity in recent years, becoming France's largest single parliamentary party. The raid comes about 3 months after the party's co-founder and de facto leader, Marine Le Pen, and other officials were convicted of embezzling EU funds.
A fast-moving wildfire near Marseille has left more than 100 people injured as flames threaten parts of France's second-largest city. Officials say some 800 firefighters have been deployed to battle the blaze, which at its peak spread at a rate of over 1 kilometre per minute. At least 400 people have been evacuated, including 71 from a nursing home, but so far no deaths have been reported. Authorities are urging Marseille residents to stay indoors and avoid evacuating unless ordered to do so roads can be kept clear for emergency crews. People are also being told to keep windows closed to prevent toxic smoke from entering their homes. Weeks of heat waves combined with strong winds have increased the risks of wildfires in southern France, with several breaking out over the last few days. More than 160 people are still missing in Texas after flash floods killed over 100 people during the weekend. The number tripled after officials opened a hotline for families to report loved ones. Search teams are using heavy machinery to cut through fallen trees, dig out riverbanks, and clear huge piles of debris in the race to find the missing. Crews in airboats, helicopters and hundreds of volunteers are involved in one of Texas's biggest ever search and rescue operations.
The primary job right now continues to be locating everybody who was affected by this flood. There still remain those who are missing. We have to find every single person who's missing.
Texas inspectors had reportedly approved Camp Mystic's emergency plan just 2 days before the disaster. 24 people were killed at the all-girls Christian summer camp, most of them children. The camp did not evacuate and was hit hard after the nearby Guadalupe River surged 9 meters in less than an hour.
Civil society and the media face increasing challenges in the EU, warns the Rule of Law report. This Commission report takes the pulse of democratic institutions in the 27 member countries through 4 pillars.
Of the 2025 Rule of Law report,
there is no progress in respect of many specific recommendations, and of course that is a concern. And so where we find that the space within which civil society operates, or where we find that has narrowed, for example, or where we find that the media are under undue pressure and influence, then we have to call that out.
In Italy, a new law on security aimed at combating terrorism and organised crime could have repercussions for civil society and media freedom.
So in the case of Italy, the important thing is to continue with the efforts to introduce the agreed reforms to the justice system. We have made recommendations, having looked at the 4 key pillars in the rule of law area. So, for example, in the media, having a system in place for the funding of public service media in Italy is a specific recommendation that we have made.
In Greece, Poland and Hungary, concerns persist about the independence and impartiality of media regulatory authorities. In Hungary, journalists and media outlets were accused of serving foreign interests and have been investigated.
The crackdown on civil society in Hungary was also underlined in the report. Commissioner McGrath mentioned a deteriorating environment and the legal uncertainty that organizations have to face in the country. Vincenzo Genovese, Euronews, Strasbourg.
Cześć, nazywam się Korek Bojanowski, jestem reżyserem filmowym i znajdujemy się w tym momencie w kinie Amondo.
Up-and-coming Polish film director Korek Bojanowski has just been to Shanghai and Brussels, where he has showcased his directorial debut, A Loss of Balance. Euronews spoke to the director about his current acclaims and future projects.
Ja jestem takim widzem, który najbardziej się boi na horrorach, najbardziej śmieje na komediach, najbardziej ryczy na melodramatach i mam tak, że lubię w ogóle kino jako taki, że to buduje jakiś taki pejzaż w ogóle, pejzaż świata. Ja opowiadam o grupie studentów, którzy przygotowują się do spektaklu dyplomowego, na ich drodze stoi nowy reżyser i zaczyna się gra między nimi.
Bojanowski says that in his film he wanted to deeply explore his character's internal emotions.
Ja chciałem ją na maksa zrozumieć.
A Loss of Balance is inspired by a real-life scandal in Polish film schools that took place in 2020, after a series of revelations by former students revealed a toxic atmosphere. The movement, which began on social media, started a larger conversation about film school.
To było przez 60-70 lat istnienia szkół aktorskich w Polsce, po prostu czymś, co było na porządku dziennym i w końcu wszyscy trochę o tym wiedzieli. Dopiero jedna dziewczyna postanowiła napisać, że to nie jest tak, że się otrzepujemy z tego i idziemy dalej, tylko że to wywołało potężną traumę, że to musiała się z tego terapeutyzować. Nagle się okazało, że profesorowie ze względu na to, że mają władzę, nadużywają tej władzy i po prostu się często po prostu wyżywają na studentach w sposób fizyczny czy psychiczny.
Coming of age is also a common theme in Bojanowski's works.
Chciałem opowiedzieć film o wchodzeniu w dorosłość właśnie i o tym, ile musimy poświęcić siebie, żeby się realizować w tym, co kochamy.
Bojanowski's A Loss of Balance was first recognized at the Gdynia Film Festival in 2024 and most recently in Brussels at the closing of the Polish EU presidency.
Byliśmy w Brukseli, w jednym z lokalnych kin. To był pokaz, który skupiał ludzi związanych właśnie z Parlamentem Europejskim, z instytucjami kulturalnymi, które są związane z Unią Europejską.
A Loss of Balance was also recently screened in Shanghai, where it won an award for its screenplay.
Więc po drodze pisałem bardzo dużo pisałem, wyprodukowałem też fabułę i to były takie lekcje, które w momencie jak zebrałem te narzędzia, no to postanowiłem, że wiedziałem, że jestem gotów, żeby po prostu stawiać film i że jestem w stanie nad tym tak zapanować.
Bojanowski emphasizes that for the Polish film industry, he is quite a young face.
Nawet jeżeli ja tam debiutowałem w wieku 30 lat, to i tak na polskie realia to jest super młodo, no bo w Polsce nawet 38-letni reżyserzy są młodymi reżyserami. Byłem pytany właśnie, czy to jest dobre, że te szanse się daje później, że tak się sprawdza tych młodych ludzi. To jest ciekawe dla mnie, ale tak, to zajęło dużo czasu.
Korek Bojanowski is already working on his second film, which he plans to film this year.
Jest to też film o wchodzeniu w dorosłość, ale jakby kolejny etap, bo mam poczucie, że utrata jest o tym, o zawodzie na świecie, że się zawodzimy na świecie, bo mam jakąś wizję świata. Jak mamy te 20-25 lat, to no może właśnie 25-30 lat to się zawodzimy na świecie, że wydawało nam się, że ten świat ma stać przed nami otworem, a tak nie jest. A to jest jakby drugi etap tego wchodzenia w dorosłość, kiedy nie zawodzimy się na świecie, tylko na sobie. Czyli jakaś taka wizja nas upada, no i to jest, wydaje mi się, właśnie tacy ludzie, którzy są tak jak ja w moim wieku, czyli tam 31-35 lat, że to jest taki kolejny etap i to jest trochę o tym. Ale osadzone mocno w Warszawie, bo jestem z Warszawy i też po prostu Warszawa mnie inspiruje na maksa jako miasto, jak to ono się zmienia.
He reveals that his next film will be a black comedy.